Welcome back to the freemilesmc, and we're today here with the Yamaha XJ 600 project, and it is completely finished. And I'm here holding the license plate for this vehicle because this machine has passed the TÜV and we're going to take it for our first little spin today. We still have to put on the mirrors because I transported it in the trunk of the car. So we need to put them back on, put this license plate on, and I'm very curious how this is going to go because it's actually pretty scary. Because I'm literally going to ride for the first time a motorcycle that I've completely wrenched on myself, and I'm going to ride it on public roads, and hopefully the thing does not fall apart. And I'm also not really sure if it will actually run for an extended period of time, because the guy at the TÜV did not take it for a test ride. It was just an emissions test and seeing if the engine basically fires up. So they didn't know exactly more than myself. So really curious if this is going to work out, also because I did the work on the brakes myself, so we have to be really careful. Also completely new tires and wet road, so, and that with a fuck ton of leaves from off them. So let's get this thing on the road. Putting on the big gloves as it's relatively cold today, and it's going to be the first time driving the bike to pull out the choke of the cold weather. I'm actually a bit nervous. The tires are completely new and you see all the leaves all over the ground, so it will be a very careful ride. You see the mirror is a bit crooked. I didn't manage it any better, and I want to get some riding done before it's dark, so let's go. And the bike fires up. I'm so proud. It's so nice. It's our first completely own worked motorcycle. Let's go to the gas station to fill up the tank completely, and I think also something we need to do is to buy fuel stabilizer. But let's first take it for a little spin. It's so crazy sitting on a Yamaha XJ again after all this time, and how narrow this bike actually feels. I'm sorry, we have to be very slow and careful on this machine because the tires are completely new. I still put them on when I used to work as a social media marketer in a motorcycle store. So I did not put them on myself, but they're completely new. So we need to be careful the first 10 kilometers. And I'm very happy to take this bike for a spin because this is now kind of my winter bike. The bike that I will ride around even when the salt is out. And yeah, I'm very curious what you guys would like to see me doing with this motorcycle, because we now worked on the machine ourselves. It's going to be relatively tricky when the bike is then properly ridden in to then fully trust the brakes and everything that I put on the bike myself. We're now carefully braking here into traffic to see, because yeah, but it all seems to be working fine. I think there are kind of two options of what we can do with this bike when it served its purpose as a winter motorcycle, and that is either learn a lot of different skills, stuff like donuts in a parking lot, learning how to wheelie and stuff, even though how the oil system is set up is not ideal for that, but you know, it's a bike we have and we need to work with what we have. Or we make this into a nice looking custom bike, because I'm actually enjoying doing the wrenching videos, even though there's often a lot of cursing in them. And I was thinking, I don't want to say cafe racer, because cafe racer is the terrible word, and I don't want to just like put a round headlight on it and I don't know, shorten the rear end, because you could also just like convert this to its naked version, which already looks like really beautiful, and with a round headlight there's not much like you can gain with this machine. And I actually thought it would be pretty cool, as the bike has this front fairing where the frame underneath is there to kind of work with this front fairing, to kind of use that. And I don't want to build a 50s cafe racer, because like the shape of the engine is just not looking that beautiful with the tilt and everything. It's just nah. And I thought if we, first of all, let's get away from the term cafe racer. We're just in general doing a custom bike. That I would love to do that, and I would potentially love to give the bike a lot of like 80s inspiration. We get a bit of lean angle going on the completely new tires with wet road and all the autumn leaves. So let's pull over for a short moment so I maybe can explain to you guys what a potential project for a custom bike could look like. It's kind of usually the meeting spot where all the motorcycle riders meet in my town. Let's just put this thing over here for a short moment. Yeah, I was thinking either we go the route that we make the bike very functional, give it a bigger rear sprocket to make it quicker in its acceleration and all this kind of stuff, and potentially wheelie the bike and do all these kinds of things. Or we go for a visual aspect, and I don't want to turn the bike into a traditional cafe racer because I don't like that term anyway, and we already have a right and fit interceptor and it has been done so many times. The angle of the engine doesn't look beautiful. I would actually love to do this with a Japanese cruiser, but we need to work with what we got for now, and also I need to learn. It's a good bike to learn on. I was actually thinking about raising the rear end, then having like, this is the diversion, and it would be easy to just take the fairing off and put like a beautiful round headlight on it, but that's too easy. Everyone does that, and the bike has this fairing, so I thought we use the construction that's already there and maybe put like a square headlight fairing from a Kawasaki on there, and then paint that fairing with like the shark face of like on a fighter jet, like on an old fighter jet. We will have to keep the tank most definitely as the airbox is underneath there, but this tank looks actually really beautiful. I would maybe buy a second Yamaha tank, take the color off, and then do some clear coating so you have the rough metal look. Put the Yamaha lettering on it again, and then maybe when already having it mounted, put like a belt with like a really nice buckle. Like I used to wear these buckle belts from my dad, who's a musician. Put that on there, so it looks like the belt is keeping the tank in place, and we can put like a little leather pouch for like some mustache wax because I don't smoke, and actually construct potentially a rear end, because I don't want to cut into the frame. I think cutting into the frame is shit because I want everything to be reversible for this bike. And if we cut into the frame, that's just too much. And I think there's some power into actually constructing a rear end. When talking about constructing a rear end, I was thinking of potentially, I want this thing to be on a budget, and I want this thing to not have a fuck ton of custom parts. Either there are some custom parts from the time this bike came out. There's a very beautiful part that's $300 sadly, with a very beautiful dual backlight. I don't know if that's legal in Germany, but that's actually made for this machine right now. Or we would try to put like a Suzuki SV650 rear end with the dual stripes as the rear light on there, because that would look really cool. Imagine the rear stripes, then here at the front the squared fairing, of course clip-ons, raised rear end, then the completely metal looking tank combined with the red frame. And then we would have the shark coloring that I would paint myself on the fairing, combined with maybe like, one of those pin-up girls that you would have on like an airplane. And that with like the tank with the belt I have a nice golden buckle that looks like a skeleton hand. We could put that on there. And maybe on the rear end we could also make some airplane inspired paintings. And on the front we could put some winglets on there. But like not race winglets, but winglets that give the thing really the fighter jet appeal. And I would love, sounds really corny, but I would love to rewire these switches and would have them in like a row inside the fairing, and would order like Amazon fighter jet switches that you just flip them open, switch them up, and switch them up basically to then start the bike. That would be pretty cool. So it's that, or we go for a performance-orientated approach, and we would of course also have to get a different seat. There's already like a aftermarket part with the same seat that just has nicer stitching that would work really well with that concept. I'd actually love to try that. What's your guys' opinion on that? I think it's good to start something like this with the Yamaha XJ. Let's continue to the gas station to fill up the tank. I think that would actually be pretty cool, and also all the stuff that I just mentioned is not too crazy and somewhat doable, and it's also a bit outside of the box, because I don't want to do the stuff that other people already kind of did. And also I think it's pretty cool to show what can be done with this platform, because it's a platform that kind of does not have a lot of opportunities with the ugly, weirdly shaped engine, and also with the airbox being underneath the tank and you having no possibilities there. But it's still relatively cheap, and it's the cheapest kind of base that you could have for a custom project, you know. We could also turn it potentially into like a scrambler, but we would need to change the wheel sizes and everything. And I already kind of have a scramblerized whatever variant for the Interceptor, so with me doing all this talk about potentially turning this motorcycle into a custom bike, I need to calm you guys down, because most likely everyone in the comments is already like, oh my god, Miles wants to put the first bike off the channel that he took to Morocco into a custom bike. He just wants to butcher the thing. No. First of all, this is actually not the XJ from the Morocco trip, which is something that maybe many people have missed. The XJ of the Morocco trip is still in my granddad's garage. The problem with it is just so many things are wrong with it, because we basically consumed everything out of that bike through the trips we did with it. But with the plans for the custom bike, I think this is a really good start for that kind of project, because I want to do that. Actually, I have many great ideas about other bikes, but you need to kind of start small. I need to start with something that's actually approachable, and I think this is somewhat approachable. And I also like that the platform, the engine, is very robust and holds for a very long time. And I don't want to touch anything that's connected to the engine. I don't want to change the carburetors. I don't want to change the airbox. I don't want to change the exhaust, because those are basically the internals of the bike that work really, really well. And if I manage to turn this into a custom bike, then we basically have a bike with those fitting internals. First, there actually was the thought of track riding this machine, as it's also kind of the cheapest way to get into track riding, but I still have another old motorcycle of myself somewhere rotting in a shed that we will most likely do that on. And speaking of that, but don't worry, this bike will first of all be used just to get around, and also potentially for the one or other video, while we have other projects going. I think before we turn this bike into a custom bike, it will be a few months, definitely. But I think it's a point where I definitely would like to start, because I would actually love to learn how to basically create something that's my own, and also have an artistic perspective to this. Because sometimes you see these clips of like the dude from Rauwelt who does the Porsches, who just cuts into them and like with his cigar and everything. Of course, that's like super extreme and super like insane amounts of work and skill, but somewhere you need to start, and I would love to start here. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. Definitely feel free to leave your inspirations in the comments, because before I actually make a plan to turn this into a custom bike, I will need to do some drawings. I actually can do some decent drawings of cars and stuff like that. It's, yeah, mediocre, but I think good enough to get an idea. Also because maybe you don't see it on the video, but the bike is relatively small and not that big. And for example, the whole like fighter jet inspiration that I just came up with, the bike doesn't really have this like stance of it just being like present and really massive. So maybe that's not the right approach. We need to try out different things basically when drawing, and then get going. And definitely like and subscribe, and check out the Patreon. I actually want to get going on the Patreon soon with a Discord community as well. All of this kind of stuff is still in the works, but definitely check it out, and see you guys soon.